Hey there. Tonight we step quietly into a world that feels both alien and familiar. A time when the ground trembles under colossal footsteps, when the air smells of resin from endless forests, and when dragon-sized wings trace shadows across a sky more star-cluttered than the one you know now. You're surrounded by creatures so immense, so bizarre, that they barely seem possible. Yet they breathe, they roar, they hunt, they graze. It's the twilight before their fall, though of course none of them know that. They go about their days with the same confidence you have when you open your fridge, convinced food will always be there. Spoiler, you probably won't survive this era either. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you feel like it, drop your location and local time in the comments. I love seeing where and when you're listening from. Now, rest your eyes, imagine each scene like a dream, and let yourself float deeper into calm. The air tonight is warm, heavy with the perfume of magnolia-like blossoms and piney resin, damp with the humidity of a greenhouse earth. The sun has just dipped, smearing the horizon with blood-orange streaks, and already the chorus begins. Cicada-like insects screech in waves, frogs thrum in rhythm, wings buzz low among ferns taller than you can see over. The ground is soft, loamy, pressed with tracks the size of bathtubs. You step among them like an ant in the aisles of a grocery store for giants. In the distance, a shape looms, a sauropod, long-necked, long-tailed, neck swaying like a ship's mast. You hear it before you can quite make it out, a deep, belly-rumbling groan that vibrates your chest like a bass speaker at a concert. Its breath clouds faintly in the cooling air. This creature doesn't even notice you, too focused on stripping entire branches of leaves with one casual sweep of its peg-like teeth. For it, the evening meal is measured in kilograms of greenery by the minute. For you, it's a reminder that in this world, you don't matter, not yet, not ever. You follow a muddy stream, its surface catching the fading light like melted bronze. A dragonfly with wingspans as wide as your hand dips low, vanishing in a ripple as a primitive fish snaps from below. Life here is greedy, restless, always taking. Even in the apparent calm of twilight, everything is feeding on something else. To your left, a pair of ceratopsians shuffle through the undergrowth. Their horns glint, their frills blotched with color like a parade gone feral. They're not fighting, just moving as a herd, snorting softly, the ground trembling beneath their combined weight. Behind them, something smaller watches, an opportunistic predator. Maybe a dromaeosaur, feathers rippling in the breeze like the crest of some punk rocker who never got the memo that this was supposed to be a family show. Its eyes glint, calculating, but it doesn't move yet. Even the hunters know patience. Above, shadows stretch across the sky. A pterosaur, impossibly vast, wings like stretched leather sails, glides silently, only the whisper of air hinting at its passage. For a moment, you might think it's a kite, a hang glider, maybe even a trick of your sleepy brain. But no, it's real, it's alive, and it's older than your whole species. It dips lower, lets out a croak like rusted metal, then climbs again, riding unseen currents into the darkening clouds. The forest grows quieter. The insects hush, as though some unspoken command has swept through the trees. You pause too, because even in your imagination you know, when everything else goes silent, it's not a good sign. Sure enough, the hush is broken by a roar, raw, bone-shaking, and guttural. It cuts through the evening like a train whistle, and suddenly every creature reacts. The ceratopsians huddle, stamping nervously. Smaller reptiles scatter. Even the sauropod lifts its head, chewing paused midleaf. And there it is. Emerging from the shadow of cycads and ferns, muscles taut, teeth bared in the half-light, a tyrannosaur. Massive, scar-lined, and very aware of its own power. Its head swings slowly side to side, tasting the air with each cavernous breath. You freeze, though of course you're not really here. That doesn't stop your body from imagining the primal fear that every other creature in sight knows intimately. But the tyrant king doesn't lunge. Not yet. It prowls, its footsteps soft for something so large, moving with the patience of something that has never doubted its ability to kill when it chooses. Around it, the entire forest seems to hold its breath. This, right now, is the twilight before the fall. The dinosaurs dominate every inch of Earth's land, sea, and sky. They are strong, loud, confident. They think they are forever. But far, far above, invisible to them, a different story has already begun. A lonely wanderer of stone drifts closer, a cosmic gatecrasher carrying an ending no roar can defy. For now, though, you stand in this twilight, listening, watching, letting the roar fade back into insect song, breathing in resin and dust. This is their world, not yours. And you, lucky, sleepy, safe where you are, get to walk it one last time before everything changes. The forest hums again, but the tremor of fear lingers, like the faint echo of thunder long after the storm has passed. The tyrannosaur melts into the dark undergrowth, leaving broken branches and heavy footprints pressed deep into the soil. You breathe again, though you're only drifting in this dream, because the rulers of this green kingdom always remind you who holds the crown. Everywhere you look, dinosaurs rule. Not just in brute force, but in number, in diversity, in the sheer audacity of their designs. You step carefully between ferns and cycads, your hands brushing fronds older than your family tree. The air smells sharp, sap and earth, mixed with something musky, animal. From the shadows, pairs of eyes glint, curious but unafraid. Smaller dinosaurs, maybe tridentids, creep along branches with the same nosiness as squirrels in your backyard, only with teeth sharp enough to make you regret every peanut you've ever offered wildlife. Out in a clearing, you see a scene so majestic it feels staged, as though the earth herself wants to show off her cast of champions. A herd of hadrosaurs, duck-billed giants with crests that look like trumpets grown out of their skulls, moves together like a floating island of flesh. They chew methodically, pulling down branches, grinding plant matter into pulp. But they don't just eat, they sing. Deep, bellowing calls roll across the clearing, their hollow crests turning breath into booming horns. Some notes are low, like foghorns on a sleepy harbor, while others rise high, wavering like a trombone warming up. Communication, courtship, maybe just joy in being alive. Who knows? You stand there, lulled, as if attending the strangest brass concert in history. Yet not far from them, a rival spectacle. Horned dinosaurs graze in their own groups, ceratopsians with armored neck frills that flare like shields painted by nature herself. Bright colors ripple along their scales, yellows, reds, blacks, as males joust playfully, clashing horns with a noise like trees snapping. Dust rises, birds scatter, but the battles are mostly for show. Real fights do happen, but right now, it's about strength display, about swagger. Even here, in this age of giants, posturing matters as much as survival. You keep walking, the ground uneven beneath you, dotted with footprints so large you could lie down inside them. Above, the canopy filters moonlight into broken silver beams. Each one reveals yet another reminder: the rulers are everywhere. Ankylosaurs shuffle slowly, tails armed with bone-crushing clubs. Packs of raptors, sleek, feathered, sharp-eyed, dart between shadows like dancers waiting for their cue. Even the trees themselves seem adapted to withstand the appetites of giants, bark scarred and branches high, as if the forest has grown tall just to keep some of its leaves out of reach. There's no mistaking it. This is their age. You feel it with every breath, every step. Dinosaurs don't just live here. They define the world. From the plains where herds roam endlessly to the mountains where nimble predators scale rocky ledges, to the skies where winged titans coast effortlessly, every niche belongs to them. You are surrounded, dwarfed, almost erased. If Earth has a favorite, it's not you, it's them. And the arrogance of the rulers shows. A giant predator naps openly, sprawled across a warm rock, belly rising and falling in sleep like the rhythm of an ocean tide. Smaller scavengers circle, but none dare touch it. Why risk a bite when the king might wake? That indifference tells you everything. The mighty act as if this will never end, as if the world was built to feed and shelter them forever. But in a way, you understand them. When you hold power, real, world-shaping power, you don't imagine loss. You don't imagine silence. The rulers of the Green Kingdoms never once consider that every roar, every trumpet call, every stomp will someday vanish into dust. They are too alive, too busy eating, fighting, mating, and parading to notice the horizon darkening with the shadow of something greater than themselves. You crouch in the grass, watching as a young ceratopsian calf stumbles after its mother, squeaking pitifully until she lowers her horned head to nudge it along. It's tender, almost human in its simplicity. Family, care, survival, it all feels familiar. Yet hanging above them all, invisible, hangs the cruel irony. None of this tenderness, none of this strength, none of this glory will stop what's coming. The kingdom belongs to dinosaurs. For now. The night deepens, and with it comes a whole different orchestra of life. The rulers of the day, sauropods, hadrosaurs, and tyrannosaurs, settle into the shadows, leaving room for new performers to step forward under the stars. You tilt your head back, staring into the Cretaceous sky, and it seems alive with movement. There's no silence here, not really, only a shift in tone. The wing beats begin. Overhead, pterosaurs glide like living kites, wings stretched taut and gleaming in the moonlight. They are enormous, some as wide as a small airplane, their elongated jaws lined with teeth that flash when the light catches just right. They skim low over rivers, dipping their snouts like fishing nets, then vanish upward in elegant arcs. The slap of wings echoes across the clearing, the sound both leathery and hollow, as though the night itself is being folded and unfolded. One of the greats, Quetzalcoatlus, a name you don't know here but would learn later in dusty textbooks, descends near the banks. Its wings fold, its tall, giraffe-like body casting an absurd silhouette. It stalks with stiff, deliberate steps, plucking at small reptiles and unlucky mammals in the grass. For all its grace in the air, On land it looks like a walking nightmare, like a stork designed by a horror film director. Yet it works. The smaller creatures scatter, and the giant feeds, unchallenged. And then comes the roar. You'd think the night would soften it, make it less terrifying, but somehow, under the stars, it sounds even more primeval. A theropod calls out, not in rage, but in communication. Maybe it's marking its territory, maybe it's calling to a mate. Whatever the reason, the sound rattles the trees, echoing for miles. It makes you shiver, even though this is only imagination. Imagine living with that outside your window every night instead of a neighbor's dog barking. Below the canopy, smaller scenes play out. Packs of dromaeosaurs, the famous raptors, dart through undergrowth, feathers bristling like dark shadows. They move with uncanny coordination, their eyes catching starlight like glass beads. A hiss here, a quick bark-like call there, and they fan out, circling some unfortunate prey. You don't see the kill, you only hear the struggle, the thump of bodies, and then the silence that follows. The night is full of endings like that. The herbivores don't sleep easily. You notice a herd of hadrosaurs clustered together, their bodies pressed flank to flank, forming a wall of flesh and vigilance. Some drowse, eyes half-lidded, but always at least one is awake, sniffing the air, listening for the wrong kind of crunch in the grass. They know danger never truly leaves. They live in a cycle of eating and watching, always half-tired, always half-scared. And yet, amid all this tension, there's beauty. Fireflies, or their prehistoric cousins, sparkle through the night, weaving constellations in the ferns. Frogs croak from marshes, blending into the deeper rumble of giant insects. Somewhere nearby, a chorus of primitive crickets sings a lullaby so loud it drowns out your thoughts for a moment. The night may be dangerous, but it's also alive in a way your modern world has mostly lost. You crouch at the edge of a riverbank. The water glows faintly with the reflection of the stars. Then suddenly a splash. A massive shadow breaks the surface. A crocodilian, ancient and armored, jaws snapping shut around a fish almost as long as your arm. It thrashes, water spraying your face, before vanishing back into the dark depths. For all the noise above ground, the rivers are ruled just as fiercely. Nothing is safe here, not even under the cover of water. Above you, the pterosaurs continue their endless circuits. Their wing beats fall into rhythm, like the ticking of some giant, leathery clock. You start to notice patterns, some soaring low, skimming insects, others climbing high, vanishing into the black like ghosts. They seem untouchable, masters of the sky, lords above the lords below. And yet, even they, with their long wings and perfect view of the horizon, fail to see the faint, wandering light that creeps closer across that very sky. For now, though, the night belongs to roars and wing beats, to feathers flashing in moonlight, to hunters and prey performing their eternal dance. You stand among it all, both terrified and entranced, as if your dreams have folded you into the very heart of a world that believes it will never end. The night rolls onward, and you shift your gaze from the sky to the undergrowth. Down here, beneath the stomping of giants and the swoop of leathery wings, lies another story, a quieter one, but no less important. Small shadows scurry through the ferns, quick blurs of fur, whiskers, and restless energy. They are mammals, your distant kin, though if they saw you now, they would only smell predator and run. You crouch lower, letting your eyes adjust to the scale of this secret kingdom. A creature no bigger than your hand darts across a fallen log, its body long and sinuous, tail twitching like a nervous wire. It pauses, nose wrinkling, tiny teeth flashing as it gnaws through the shell of an insect. Crunch, crunch, the sound oddly loud in the stillness. This one looks like a cross between a shrew and a squirrel, with fur matted from dew and wide, bulging eyes adapted for the dark. It lives not in conquest, but in constant terror, a survivor through speed and paranoia. Deeper in the brush, you catch another glimpse, a slightly larger mammal, pouch-bellied, cradling its squirming young like a kangaroo from a future yet to come. The babies squeak softly, blind and helpless, feeding as their mother digs frantically for roots. Her claws are sharp, not for fighting, but for scraping out whatever scraps she can find. While the dinosaurs dominate the surface, she owns the cracks, the crevices, the hidden larders of soil and shadow. The forest floor is alive with these tiny hustlers. Some are insectivores, their noses constantly twitching, sniffing for beetles or worms. Others are omnivores, willing to steal an egg if the opportunity arises. You watch one bold little furball scramble up a hadrosaur nest, quick as lightning, grab an egg twice the size of its head, and vanish before the mother even notices. Survival here is measured in speed and cleverness, not brute strength. And then comes the predator's shadow. A small feathered raptor, no bigger than a dog, slinks through the ferns. Its eyes are keen, nostrils flaring, head tilting as it catches the faint rustle of tiny paws. You freeze, not because you're in danger, but because you know what's about to happen. The mammal bolts, zigzagging wildly, fur brushing ferns as it darts into a hole beneath a root. The raptor lunges, claws raking the earth, but the hole is too small. It screeches in frustration, tail lashing, then stalks away in search of easier prey. The mammal trembles in its hiding place, heartbeat like a drum, alive for another few minutes. That's all life promises here. Another few minutes. The irony doesn't escape you. These small shadows, so fragile, so vulnerable, are the real heirs of this world. While the rulers above swagger and stomp, convinced of eternity, these little survivors practice the arts of hiding, hoarding, and waiting. They will not conquer with teeth and claws. They will conquer with patience. Still, their world is not easy. Food is scarce for such small mouths. At the edge of a clearing, you see a desperate scuffle. Two mammals, each no larger than your foot, locked in a squeaking, biting battle over a single carcass of a fallen lizard. They roll in the dirt, fur matted with blood, until one limps away, defeated but alive. The victor drags its prize into the shadows, greedily devouring every scrap. For a moment, it feels more brutal than the roars of the tyrannosaurs. Scale doesn't lessen the savagery. Above them, fireflies pulse like faint stars, lighting the mammal's frantic movements in stuttering flashes. The contrast is almost comical. Tiny glowing lanterns celebrating survival games that no one else notices. If you blink, you might miss them entirely. But you don't blink. You stay watching these shadows in the undergrowth. Because one day, long after the last tyrannosaur has fallen, long after the pterosaur wings have folded for good, these twitchy, paranoid, sleepless little creatures will still be here. They will outlast the roar. They will inherit the silence. And you, somehow will be their child. For now, though, they scurry at your feet, unaware of their future, focused only on the next worm, the next root, the next breath. Small shadows, living quietly beneath the noise of giants, rehearsing for the role they don't yet know they've been cast to play. You leave the hush of the undergrowth behind and drift toward a different kingdom altogether. Not the forests, not the plains, but the endless seas that lap at the shores of the Cretaceous world. The air here is heavy with salt, sharp and tangy on your tongue. The horizon stretches forever, a silver blue mirror catching the moonlight. You'd think the sea might be calmer, safer, but you know better. If the land belongs to dinosaurs, the oceans are ruled by something even stranger. The first hint comes as a shadow beneath the surface. At first, you mistake it for a drifting log. Then it rises, splits the water with a surge, and reveals itself as a mosasaur, an ocean reptile longer than a school bus, jaws like a trap bristling with conical teeth. Its eyes are cold, unblinking, perfectly adapted for killing in the watery dark. The splash as it surfaces is violent, the kind of sound that makes your chest thump like a dropped drum. And just as suddenly, it dives again, vanishing into the abyss as if it had never been. Around it, schools of fish scatter like glitter tossed into the water. Some are ancient lineages you'd recognize. Sharks, sleek and restless, circling like gray shadows. Others are stranger, armored with scales that gleam like metal plates, their bodies clumsy but durable. Above them all, ammonites drift in slow spirals, their coiled shells reflecting faint moonlight, tentacles fluttering as they ride the currents. They look delicate, almost like toys, but they've survived for hundreds of millions of years. Not everything here is about speed or size. Sometimes persistence is enough. The sea sings a different song than the forest. Instead of roars and trumpets, you hear the hiss of waves, the hollow boom of surf against cliffs, the occasional sharp crack of something enormous breaking the surface. A plesiosaur glides past, its long neck rising like a periscope, head tilting as if to study the stars. Its flippers stroke the water in silence, smooth and rhythmic, a ghost slipping between two worlds, one of light above, one of dark below. And yet even here, fear rules. A smaller reptile ventures too close to the open waters. You watch the ocean tense. Then, boom, the water erupts. The mosasaur strikes upward with terrifying precision, its jaws clamping down on the smaller creature. For a heartbeat you hear the thrashing, the spray of salt water stinging your face. Then the sea swallows them both. The ripples spread, then smooth. The surface pretends nothing happened. But you know, everyone in these waters knows. You lean closer, peering into the black depths. Imagine the pressure, the cold, the darkness. Down there are creatures you can't even see, squid-like predators with hooked arms, blind fish with gaping mouths, things adapted to the silence and the crushing weight. The seas are alive from the sunlit shallows to the pitch-black trenches. Everywhere, someone is eating, and someone is about to be eaten. Not even the land feels far away. On the shoreline, pterosaurs dive with spear-shaped beaks, snatching fish in quick, precise motions. They squawk and bicker over their catch like seagulls at a boardwalk, only far larger, their wings casting vast shadows across the surf. Some flap inland to feed their chicks nesting on cliffs, others linger, hoping to snatch the scraps left by bigger predators. For all the terror in these waters, there's also calm. You float for a moment in the rolling rhythm of the tide, letting the hiss of waves soothe you. The stars shimmer above, the sea reflects them below, and for one heartbeat the world feels endless and balanced. The reptiles hunt, the ammonites drift, the sharks circle, the waves breathe. It seems eternal, this ocean kingdom. But of course it isn't. Nothing is. Even here, in this world where giants rule both land and sea, an ending waits beyond the horizon. The water doesn't know it. The mosasaurs don't know it. The ammonites, the sharks, the plesiosaurs, they glide as if forever. Yet above, far above, a lonely wanderer continues its silent path toward this blue, living planet. The ocean rulers, like the dinosaurs on land, cannot see the shadow coming. For now, you drift with them, marveling at the seas of teeth and fins. You breathe in the salt, hear the crash of waves, and let yourself imagine what it feels like to be so powerful, so certain that the ocean belongs to you forever. The oceans fade behind you, and once again you find yourself back on land, deep among the forests where ferns brush against your arms and cicadas hum relentlessly. But tonight the air feels different. Heavier, thicker. You can't quite name it, but the earth itself seems uneasy, as though holding its breath. Even the leaves don't stir the way they should. You tilt your head, listening, and somewhere in the distance, you hear the faint rumble of something not alive, something beneath. Volcanoes. The ground here is never entirely still. In the far-off horizon, red glows stain the sky like smears of paint, the result of great eruptions that shake continents. Geysers of ash and gas rise from the crust, carried into the winds, spreading a fine dust that settles on leaves and rivers. You brush a fern frond with your hand and see that its green is dulled, powdered with the gray of some distant eruption. It isn't enough to kill, not yet, but it is enough to whisper, something is shifting under the surface. Dinosaurs still graze, oblivious. A herd of armored ankylosaurs trundle past, their footsteps steady, tails swaying like wrecking balls. Sparks of light, tiny embers blown from distant eruptions, drift through the canopy. They land on thick hides, harmless, and the animals don't even notice. But you notice. The world feels unsettled, as if you've wandered into a room where someone just had an argument and no one has spoken since. Thunder rolls across the mountains, though no storm is in sight. It's not weather, it's the sound of Earth's crust groaning. You feel it in your feet, a faint vibration like the hum of a faraway engine. A nearby stream ripples strangely, the surface quivering in time with underground shifts. Frogs leap from the banks, croaking angrily, as though they too sense what the ground is hiding. The climate itself begins to wobble. Days that should be wet turn dry, and days that should be warm turn strangely cool. Flowers bloom too early, confusing the insects that depend on them. In the distance, a swamp smells sharper, more sulfurous than it should. These are small changes, almost invisible if you're not looking. But you are looking, and you see how the balance is tipping ever so slightly out of tune. You watch as a herd of hadrosaurs mills about a drying pond. They tromp in circles, bellowing low, confused that the water is shallower than it was last season. Their crests echo the sound like hollow horns, carrying their frustration across the valley. A few individuals wade into the muck, sinking knee-deep, pulling free with wet, sucking sounds. The pond isn't gone, not yet, but it will be. And when it is, The herd will have to move, searching for new water, testing the edges of unfamiliar territory. Some will make it, some won't. Life goes on, but uneasily. You glance upward, watching a canopy bird dart between branches. It flits from tree to tree, wings beating furiously, chirping a call that sounds almost too fast, too nervous. Maybe it always sounded that way, or maybe it knows more than the giants stomping below. Birds, those feathered descendants of dinosaurs, seem jittery in a way their larger cousins never do. They're built for quick escapes, for survival through adaptability, not brute size. You can't help but think of them as little barometers of fate. The earth itself breathes smoke tonight. A thin plume rises in the distance, pale by daylight but glowing faintly now against the stars. You can almost taste the metallic tang of ash on your tongue. You feel heat, though you're nowhere near the eruption. Even the wind seems hotter, swirling unpredictably, tugging at your hair like invisible fingers. Dinosaurs, though, they act as if nothing has changed. A tyrannosaur lumbers across the edge of your vision, pausing to snap a trunk-sized bone in its jaws with a sound that makes your teeth ache. A group of smaller ornithopods scatter, but not because of ash or trembling ground, only because of him. For them, the threat is immediate, personal, teeth and claws and horns. They cannot comprehend that the earth itself is shifting beneath them, preparing a stage for an ending no predator could deliver. You stand still, watching sparks of red light the horizon. The ground shifts again, subtle but insistent. A few pebbles skitter down a slope, a reminder that the land itself is restless. Somewhere below your feet, magma moves, pressure builds, and gases seep into the air. The dinosaurs walk on, unaware. But you feel the imbalance. And you know, the planet feels uneasy. Far away, so far that the light of Earth is just a faint shimmer in the black. Something drifts. A stone, ancient and forgotten, spins slowly in the silent dark. It is not alive, yet it has traveled longer than any living thing ever will. It has seen stars born and stars die. It has passed planets that flared with fire and others cloaked in ice. It carries with it dust from the dawn of the solar system, fragments older than the Earth itself. And now, by chance, by gravity's nudge, it is coming here. You watch it as though you're floating just behind it. The meteor, lonely, silent, has no purpose, no malice. It doesn't aim. It doesn't choose. It simply moves, tugged by invisible hands, obeying the quiet mathematics of orbits and gravity wells. But to Earth, to the creatures strutting in their green kingdoms, this traveler is destiny disguised as stone. The surface of the meteor is scarred, pitted with craters from older collisions. Some places glint faintly with metals, others are black and porous like volcanic rock. If you could run your fingers across it, they would come away gritty, like touching the oldest charcoal in the universe. And deep inside, frozen gases and minerals hide secrets untouched for billions of years. It is, in its own way, a time capsule from creation. Meanwhile, back on Earth, the rulers feast and roar. The meteor does not care. You drift closer, noticing how it spins, slowly, lazily, with a rhythm that feels almost hypnotic. Its edges catch starlight, flashing briefly, then vanishing again into shadow. For a heartbeat, it looks like nothing more than an especially large pebble. You could hold it in your palm, but your imagination stretches, And suddenly you realize this is no pebble. It is a mountain, a mass larger than whole cities, moving with speed that defies comprehension. Its silence is deceptive. Its momentum is its voice, and the earth will hear it soon enough. As it travels, it passes other rocks, fragments of ancient debris. Some follow behind, caught in the same invisible pull. Others spin away into nothingness. The meteor continues, indifferent, a solitary wanderer in the black ocean of space. For millions of years, its path has been a quiet exile. Now it finds its final destination. And here's the strange part. If you tilt your head just right, you can almost feel the loneliness of it. A stone, wandering without witness, without anyone to name it, without anyone to remember it once it burns into atmosphere and soil. The dinosaurs will not know it. They will not look up and see fate streaking across their night sky. They will simply live, then stop. Only much later will curious little mammals dig through layers of stone and wonder what it meant. The meteor doesn't mean anything. It isn't punishment. It isn't a message. It isn't a villain in this story. It is simply a traveler, a quiet one, but with weight and momentum enough to end an empire. For now, it drifts silently on, the stars wheeling around it, Earth growing brighter in its path. You feel the chill of space, the vast emptiness pressing in, and yet there is a strange peace in the sight. The meteor is lonely, yes, but not lost. Its journey has always been toward this moment, toward the blue-green world that spins, oblivious, just ahead. The lonely meteor wanders, and it is almost home. You float down again, slipping through the veil of atmosphere, back into a world of sweltering jungles and vast plains. The dinosaurs are restless, though they don't know why. They move as they always have, hunting, grazing, basking in the heavy sun. Yet in the corners of this paradise, change is whispering. Forests that once seemed eternal are beginning to thin. Volcanoes murmur in the distance, breathing out plumes of smoke that drift across the skies. The air feels heavy, dense with particles invisible to your eyes, but clinging in every breath. You can almost taste it, a metallic tang, as if the earth itself is exhaling too hard. You wander among a herd of hadrosaurs, duck-billed creatures grazing peacefully. Their young nudge against their mothers, tails flicking lazily. But the leaves they chew are not quite as lush as before, not quite as plentiful. The plants, struggling under shifting climates and volcanic dust, carry less of the richness they once had. And the hadrosaurs eat and eat, but gain less in return. Their bodies tell the story, leaner, more fragile. Overhead, pterosaurs glide through skies that are hazy, a little darker than they used to be. They ride air currents that wobble with strange warmth, then sudden coolness. You feel it too, the inconsistency of the air, a climate wobbling between extremes. A few months feel like summer stretched endlessly, then storms lash down with sudden, brutal force. Balance is slipping and the animals, though unaware, sense it. Their calls sound sharper, more uneasy. On the forest floor, smaller creatures scurry. Early mammals, those furtive little furballs you've been meeting again and again, seem busier now. They dig deeper burrows, gather more, twitch nervously at every rustle. You can't help but admire them. While the giants still strut obliviously, the small ones already adapt, sensing a storm they can't possibly comprehend. As you move through this changing world, You notice carcasses more often. Not from meteors, not yet. These are deaths from hunger, from exhaustion, from battles fought harder because resources are thinner. Predators like the tyrannosaurs still rule, but even they struggle. Their roars echo less triumphantly, more desperately. Imagine having a crown that is slipping and you don't even know it. And through it all, the earth keeps trembling. Volcanic fields far away spew lava that cracks the land, pouring greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. The skies trap more heat, then suddenly plunge into cool spells as ash drifts across continents. It's chaos, slow but relentless. You can almost hear the planet muttering, "Change is coming." You kneel by a riverbank where water runs lower than it once did. Fish flicker in the shallows, fewer in number, thinner. Dinosaurs stoop to drink, and you notice how their reflections waver oddly, distorted not just by ripples but by something intangible, like the world itself is beginning to bend under unseen weight. And yet, if you glance upward, you see nothing unusual. The stars wheel overhead. The sun still blazes. The dinosaurs lift their heads, grunt, and move on. They do not know that their troubles are only the opening notes of a much greater silence to come. Because high above them, unseen, the lonely meteor has crossed a point of no return. It is locked in now, falling inward toward Earth. Gravity has chosen, and fate spins invisibly closer with every passing moment. But here, on the ground, life continues, stubborn as ever. Eggs hatch. Teeth flash. Forests rustle. The great kingdom still believes itself eternal. And you, drifting unseen, feel the tension of the scene. A world that does not realize its countdown has already begun. The quiet unraveling deepens. And the dinosaurs, proud rulers of an unsteady stage, walk onward toward a destiny they cannot sense. Morning rises slowly over the Cretaceous landscape, pale and hesitant through the haze of volcanic dust. You notice how light has changed, the sun's rays filtered, softer yet stranger, casting everything in muted gold and gray. Shadows stretch oddly, leaves seem darker on top and faintly luminescent underneath. The world feels dreamlike, the edges slightly blurred, as if reality itself has begun to loosen. A herd of ceratopsians moves through a low valley, nostrils flaring, claws kicking up dust that hangs in the air like smoke. Their frills catch the light, revealing subtle patterns and colors, reds, yellows, and browns, that might have been intended for display or intimidation. You watch one young calf trip, stumble over a root, and be nudged upright by its mother. Life goes on, fragile and stubborn, even when the ground itself seems unsure of its loyalty. Predators begin to stir. A tyrannosaur shakes its massive head, teeth flashing as it surveys the area. Its eyes are keen, but even they are slightly unsettled. Tracks from other predators crisscross the mud, some older, some new. Hunger drives them, but so does unease, a faint instinct whispering that change is afoot. This is new, subtle, almost imperceptible to creatures built for brute force, but it affects them nonetheless. Overhead, pterosaurs skim the clouds. Some are hunting. Some are simply gliding, feathers ruffled by wind currents made erratic by distant eruptions. You notice the way one dips too low, wings slicing through ash-laden air, and wonder if even they sense the shift, a disturbance too large to comprehend, too slow to fear consciously, yet impossible to ignore. The smaller creatures scurry as usual, early mammals and little scurrying reptiles hiding among roots and fallen logs. They seem to notice more than the giants. You watch a tiny mammal dart from one hole to another, carrying a grub in its mouth. It pauses, nose twitching, listening. A subtle quiver runs through the soil beneath its feet. You feel it too, an almost imperceptible vibration, like the planet testing its strength. Waterways behave strangely. A river, normally steady, churns with unusual turbulence. Fish jump higher than usual, startled. Amphibians croak nervously, sensing the vibrations. A crocodilian floats near the bank, unmoving, like it too waits to understand what's happening. The river mirrors the sky, calm on the surface, turbulent below. Back on land, herbivores graze cautiously. The hadrosaurs stop mid-step, lifting heads, nostrils quivering. One of them emits a low bellow, a signal to the others. They don't know what they fear, predators, disease, or simply the unsettled world, but instinct tells them something is wrong. They move together, tighter as a herd, scanning shadows, ears flicking at every minor sound. High in the sky, you imagine the lonely meteor approaching faster now, unseen. It is silent, indifferent, carrying nothing but momentum, a weighty certainty that will soon break through the atmosphere. Dinosaurs above and below do not notice it. They cannot. Their minds, brilliant in survival and instinct, cannot sense the cosmic intruder that will redefine their existence. And so life continues, uneasy but persistent. Predators stalk prey, herbivores munch cautiously, water flows, wind moves. Yet under it all, subtle tremors hint at the invisible hand of fate, coming, inevitable, and utterly silent. You linger, watching, feeling the tension of a world unknowingly poised on the edge of a change no roar, no claw, and no cunning can escape. The quiet tension grows. You sense it in every leaf, every footstep, every ripple of water. Change is approaching, and the dinosaurs, as mighty as they are entirely unaware. The day stretches on, humid and heavy, sunlight filtering through ash-clouded skies in long, slanted beams. You wander along a ridge overlooking a vast valley where herds of herbivores roam like rivers of flesh. Their colors, greens, browns, muted reds, blend with the dusty ground, making it almost impossible to track a single individual. Yet your gaze follows them anyway, because every movement tells a story, grazing, stamping, nuzzling, watching. Life persists, stubborn as ever, despite the quiet disturbances you already sense. In the distance, a group of tyrannosaurs patrols the edges of the valley, moving with a confidence born of centuries of dominance. Their eyes are sharp, scanning for weaknesses, for movement. Yet even they hesitate now and then, heads lifting, ears twitching at sounds too subtle to pinpoint. Something is changing, and though they cannot name it, instinct whispers that the balance of power may be shifting. The river that winds through the valley is no longer predictable. Its waters are murky, stirred by upstream sediment from volcanic ash. Fish dart more frantically, while amphibians cling to muddy banks. Occasionally, a crocodilian slips silently into the water, belly low, eyes barely above the surface, waiting, patient, almost timeless. You notice how the river mirrors the subtle tension in the land, outwardly calm, but under its skin, full of restless energy. A herd of ceratopsians crosses the riverbank, cautious and deliberate. Young calves squeak and stumble, guided firmly by mothers. Their frills flare occasionally, a warning signal, a display of strength. Predators watch, hidden, patient, but the herds are cautious, attuned to every vibration of the ground, every shift in the wind. Even in their power, the dinosaurs sense that the world is beginning to whisper of things they cannot yet comprehend. You notice smaller details, the ferns brushing your arms as you pass, the rustle of insects in the underbrush, the occasional squawk or call from a canopy bird. Every sound carries a note of unease. Even the smallest creatures, the scurrying early mammals, the tiny burrowing reptiles, appear more alert, their eyes wide, their movements sharper. Adaptation is alive everywhere, but instinct cannot prevent destiny. High above, pterosaurs circle lazily, wings extended, riding thermal currents that have shifted unpredictably with the changing climate. They dive occasionally to snatch fish from the river or insects from the treetops, but even they pause briefly in midair, wings frozen, as if sensing the subtle shift in the atmosphere. The wind itself seems irregular now, tugging at leaves and feathers, whispering through the trees with a cadence you've never heard before. Back on the valley floor, the great herbivores graze, but their vigilance is higher. Heads lift more often, ears flicking to sounds you cannot hear. Even a small raptor, prowling through the shadows, hesitates mid-step, tail twitching. The world, for all its apparent normalcy, is beginning to tremble. Attention threads through every living thing, connecting predator and prey, giant and tiny mammal alike. And far above, beyond sight or hearing, the lonely meteor speeds closer, a silent harbinger, indifferent to the delicate drama unfolding below. It cannot be bargained with, cannot be reasoned with. Its momentum is absolute, its path unchangeable. Yet the dinosaurs, in all their power and pride, continue to live as though nothing extraordinary is coming. The valley hums with life, vibrant and tense, each heartbeat and footfall marking time against the unstoppable approach of fate. You linger on the ridge, observing, feeling the planet's subtle quivers, sensing the invisible clock ticking ever faster toward the inevitable. Evening falls, slow and deliberate, casting long shadows across the plains. The light is strange, filtered through lingering ash from distant volcanic eruptions. It paints the landscape in muted oranges and grays, softening the edges of giant ferns and towering conifers. You move quietly through this shifting world, your senses alert to the subtle rhythms of life teetering on the brink of change. A herd of sauropods grazes nearby, massive and seemingly invincible. Their long necks stretch toward the treetops, snapping leaves with deliberate, unhurried movements. Yet you notice something different in their gait. The weight of their legs, usually so confident, now presses down with faint hesitation. They sway, shifting massive bodies from foot to foot, as though testing the ground beneath them. Even creatures this colossal cannot ignore the quiet unease that has settled over the land. Predators, too, feel the tension. A pair of dromaeosaurs stalks through the shadows at the forest edge, claws scraping softly over fallen leaves. Their eyes glint in the dying light, sharp and calculating. They communicate in low, almost imperceptible calls, coordinating movements with an efficiency born of survival. But tonight, their hunt is slower, more cautious. Prey seems jittery, moving unpredictably, and the predators sense it, instinctively adjusting, the rhythm of the chase altered by an invisible hand. The undergrowth teems with smaller life. Early mammals scuttle from burrow to burrow, carrying food back to hidden nests. Their fur bristles in the fading light, eyes wide, noses twitching. They pause frequently, listening to vibrations in the soil, watching shadows stretch and distort. You realize that for them, every step, every rustle, could be the difference between life and death. Yet they move with determination, tiny guardians of survival in a world dominated by giants. Above, pterosaurs catch the last of the light, gliding through air that feels heavy with dust and heat. Their wings beat in irregular rhythms, buffeted by strange air currents. They dive for fish and insects, returning to nests hidden high in cliffs or tall trees. Some pause midair, wings spread, surveying the land below with a sharpness that betrays their instinctive understanding that something is amiss. Rivers and streams reflect the evening sky, streaked with the glow of dying light. The water moves slower, carrying sediment from volcanic ash upstream. Fish dart nervously, leaping above the surface, while crocodilians float, barely disturbing the water. The river seems alive with apprehension, mirroring the tension of the land and sky. And somewhere, far above, the lonely meteor continues its inexorable path toward Earth. Its presence is silent, unseen, and yet its arrival is inevitable. The dinosaurs cannot see it. They cannot comprehend the scale of what approaches. For now, life carries on, vibrant and unaware, as if the planet itself is holding its breath. You linger, taking in the details, the sway of a fern, the flicker of eyes in the underbrush, the distant call of a predator. Every movement, every sound, every shadow carries a note of subtle warning. The world is alive, intensely so, but with a quiet tension that grows with every passing moment. The stage is set. Night fully descends now, and with it comes a deep, velvety darkness that blankets the land. The sky is streaked with faint stars, dimmed by lingering ash and distant volcanic glow, creating an otherworldly tapestry that both comforts and unnerves. You move quietly through the forest, each step measured, listening to the whispers of life that continue their tireless routines. The larger dinosaurs rest, but not entirely. Even in sleep, a tyrannosaur shifts uneasily, nostrils flaring at scents carried by the wind. Its dreams, if it can be called that, are of prey, of rival roars, of territory. The balance of power is familiar, yet there is a subtle undercurrent of tension. Something, though unseen, seems to ripple through the trees, nudging instincts awake. Smaller creatures, by contrast, are alive with activity. Early mammals, still nocturnal, dart through the shadows, ears perked, whiskers trembling. They pause at every movement, every distant splash in a river, every faint rustle of leaves. One scurries across a fallen log carrying a small grub, narrowly escaping the snapping jaws of a small predator lying in wait. Survival is a delicate, constant negotiation, every heartbeat a gamble. In the rivers and swamps, amphibians croak in complex rhythms, blending with the croaks of primitive frogs. Fish flicker in the dim reflections of the stars above, their silver sides flashing. Crocodilians slip silently into the water, their eyes barely above the surface, observing, waiting, ancient and patient. You notice how the smallest ripple in the water can send waves of panic through the tiny ecosystem, a reminder that even minor disturbances have consequences in a world finely balanced. High above, pterosaurs continue their eternal patrols. Their wings cut the air with precision, riding unpredictable thermals created by shifting temperatures and distant eruptions. Some dive, snagging fish or insects, while others pause midair, scanning the terrain with sharp eyes. Even these rulers of the skies seem subtly off-kilter, gliding with a caution that mirrors the nervous energy below. The ash in the air settles like fine dust on leaves, on riverbanks, and on the bodies of creatures who are blissfully unaware of the larger forces at play. The smell is metallic, tangy, almost like iron, a constant reminder that the earth itself is alive and restless. You can taste it on your tongue, feel its weight in your lungs, a subtle prelude to events far beyond comprehension. And far above, the lonely meteor draws ever closer, its silent descent unstoppable. It will not pause, will not falter. Every second, it travels faster, crossing the void with absolute certainty. The dinosaurs below remain oblivious, living as though the world will continue as it always has. The forest, the plains, the rivers, all vibrate with life that does not yet realize the shadow that approaches. You linger in the darkness, noticing every twitch of leaf, every glint of eye, every muffled step. Life pulses around you, persistent, beautiful, delicate. Yet in the cosmic scale, it is fragile. Every sound, every movement, every creature is caught in a slow countdown, unaware, waiting for the inevitable ripple of a stone that will change everything. Dawn creeps back into the world, a timid brush of pale light across the horizon. The ash-laden air softens slightly, turning the landscape into muted shades of green, brown, and gray. You drift quietly through the lowlands, where dew clings to ferns like tiny beads of glass, reflecting a light that has been filtered, dulled, yet strangely beautiful. The world feels suspended, caught between moments, as if holding its breath. The dinosaurs stir with the new light. A herd of hadrosaurs lifts their heads, nostrils quivering, scanning the horizon. They graze cautiously, ears flicking at faint sounds carried on the wind. Even giants are aware when the balance of their world wavers. Each step they take is deliberate, their muscles tense with instinctive caution. A young calf lags slightly behind the herd, and a mother nudges it forward with careful persistence. You notice the subtle communication between them, movements, touches, vocal signals, a symphony of survival. Predators to it. A tyrannosaur prowls along the edge of a cliff, nostrils flaring, scanning the valley below. Its eyes, sharp and calculating, catch every movement, every shimmer of light, every tremor in the earth. Yet even this apex predator pauses more often than usual, scanning, listening, hesitant. The subtle vibrations in the ground, the irregular patterns in the river, the slight haze in the air, they all hint that something unseen is approaching. Instinct is uneasy, and that unease spreads. The river, winding lazily through the valley, carries ash and sediment in its murky waters. Fish flicker near the surface, jumping unpredictably. Crocodilians float almost motionless, eyes just above the waterline, ancient patience etched into their scales. You notice the smallest ripples, the ones caused by tiny mammals skittering along the banks, or by insects disturbing the surface. Every motion becomes a signal, every ripple a potential alarm. Small mammals move with careful precision, One scurries across a fallen log, stopping abruptly to sniff the air, whiskers twitching. It senses disturbances invisible to the eye, vibrations too subtle for you to detect easily. It gathers seeds, insects, and other morsels, carrying them to burrows it has reinforced in anticipation of harsher times. You watch, fascinated, as the cleverness of these tiny creatures contrasts sharply with the obliviousness of the giants around them. Pterosaurs take to the skies, their wings cutting through the ash-stained light. They glide with keen awareness, scanning streams and rivers for fish. Some circle lazily, some dive with sudden precision. Even in this moment of apparent normalcy, you feel the tension beneath every movement, the quiet hum of life aware, somewhere, of a distant fate. And far beyond the atmosphere, the lonely meteor presses on. It is closer now, a shadow unseen, but inevitable. Its approach is silent, unstoppable, a cosmic certainty that dwarfs the struggles below. Dinosaurs, mammals, pterosaurs, and fish continue unaware, caught in routines that have served them for millions of years. And yet, that routine is about to be shattered by a traveler from the void, indifferent to time, life, and history. You linger, observing the rhythms of a world unknowingly poised on the edge of irrevocable change. Every leaf, every ripple, every heartbeat seems to carry the weight of a story still unfolding, a story that will soon reach its quiet, earth-shaking climax. The day stretches on, humid and heavy, yet the ash-laden sunlight casts an eerie glow over the landscape. You drift along a ridge overlooking a plain where dinosaurs move with purposeful, but increasingly cautious steps. Even the largest sauropods, whose long necks sweep through the treetops with grace, seem slightly hesitant. Every movement carries a whisper of unease, as though the world itself is warning them of what lies ahead. Predators are sharper today. A pack of raptors slinks through the underbrush, their claws digging into soft earth as they coordinate a hunt. Eyes flash with intent, tails flick in silent signals, and bodies move with synchrony born of instinct. Yet even they pause more frequently than usual, scanning the horizon, nostrils flaring, ears twitching at the subtle tremors in the soil. Something is off. You sense it too, the delicate tension between life and the unseen force moving ever closer. Rivers behave unpredictably. Water runs thick with sediment stirred by upstream ash and debris. Fish leap from the murky surface, their bodies flashing silver briefly before slipping back beneath the waves. Crocodilians float, barely moving, eyes just above water. You notice the ripple patterns, tiny, erratic, almost anxious. The ecosystem mirrors the subtle disquiet spreading across the land. Even the tiniest disruption can cascade in these finely tuned networks of survival. Herbivores respond in kind. Hadrosaurs pause mid-graze, ears swiveling, eyes alert. Triceratops families move in tighter formations, frills flaring in silent communication, signaling caution. Younglings are nudged along by mothers, taught without words that vigilance is now a necessity. You watch as instinct takes over, guiding behavior faster than thought, preparing the creatures for challenges they cannot yet see. Small mammals, ever watchful, dart across open spaces. Whiskers twitch, tails flick, and noses sniff for subtle changes in scent carried by the wind. They burrow deeper, fortify nests, and gather more than usual. Survival, they know instinctively, is a matter of preparation for something larger, though they cannot name it. Above, pterosaurs cut through uneven thermal currents, wings slicing through ash-streaked skies. Their shadows fall over the ground, fleeting and silent. Some dive for fish or insects, others circle, surveying the valley below. Even in this seemingly ordinary routine, the air feels charged with anticipation. And high beyond the atmosphere, the lonely meteor draws closer still. Its approach is silent, absolute, inevitable. The dinosaurs below continue their routines, unaware that a cosmic visitor carries the weight of oblivion, a solitary harbinger whose arrival will shift the balance of life entirely. You linger, observing the interplay of predator and prey, of sky and river, of small mammals and towering giants. The land hums with a quiet, anticipatory energy. Everything moves as it always has, but beneath the surface, tension coils, waiting for the inevitable disruption. The stage is set, the players unaware, and the first notes of an ending are being written in the silent language of space and momentum. Afternoon heat presses down on the Cretaceous plains, thick and heavy, mixing with the lingering haze of volcanic ash. The sun filters through clouds of dust, casting the world in muted ochres and greens, softening edges, and creating long, wavering shadows. You move silently among the trees, sensing the faint tremors beneath the soil, subtle vibrations that echo the invisible tension coursing through the land. Herds of herbivores move cautiously. Sauropods stretch their necks high to graze on treetops, yet their enormous legs step more deliberately, almost testing the ground. Younglings stumble, learning to navigate uneven soil, and mothers nudge them forward with careful guidance. Every motion, every sway of tail and shift of weight speaks to a deep instinct. Remain alert, remain aware, even when the world seems ordinary. Predators roam with an uneasy patience. A tyrannosaur lumbers along a ridge, teeth glinting faintly in the filtered light. Its massive head pivots continuously, scanning, sniffing, listening. The earth beneath its feet carries faint vibrations from distant activity, trees collapsing under their own weight, streams shifting course, ash settling quietly from eruptions far away. Predators respond not only to prey but to the subtle rhythms of the planet itself. You notice the way its eyes narrow, catching details invisible to anything other than sharp instinct. Rivers and ponds shift slowly under the weight of volcanic sediment. Fish dart in startled patterns, silver flashes in murky water. Crocodilians float along banks, muscles tense, eyes scanning for movement. Ripples, minute yet persistent, travel across the water's surface from unseen disturbances. Even aquatic life is sensitive to the slow but unmistakable shifts in the environment. The undergrowth teems with smaller life, unseen but alert. Tiny mammals and scuttling reptiles move rapidly, whiskers and antennae sensing vibrations, eyes bright and watchful. They dig and burrow, forage and hoard, anticipating change they cannot articulate, responding purely to instinct honed over millennia. These diminutive creatures, so easily overlooked, are some of the most attuned to the subtle signs of the world's instability. Above, pterosaurs patrol uneven thermals, gliding through the ash-stained sky. Some dive sharply to snatch fish from rivers, others hover briefly, wings spread wide, eyes scanning far below. Their motions are precise, adaptive, shaped by necessity. Even the masters of the air sense the tension. The atmosphere itself seems slightly restless, a prelude to the unknown that grows closer with each passing moment. And high beyond the atmosphere, the lonely meteor accelerates, crossing space with unerring certainty. It is silent, indifferent, unaware of life, death, or history. It is approaching a world full of creatures who cannot yet comprehend its presence. Dinosaurs graze, hunt, and rest, entirely oblivious to the weight of destiny descending toward them. You linger in the shifting landscape, absorbing the intricate choreography of predator and prey, land and sky, river and plain. Every movement, every sound, every ripple in the water hums with the quiet tension of a world unknowingly poised on the edge of irrevocable change. The stage is alive with anticipation. The sun begins its slow descent, casting long, wavering shadows across the ash-streaked plains. The light turns the landscape into muted shades of amber and gray, softening shapes, stretching trees into ghostly silhouettes. You move carefully through the thick ferns and low-growing cycads, aware of the subtle vibrations beneath your feet, tiny tremors that hint at a restless earth preparing for something beyond comprehension. Herds of herbivores begin to shift with the changing light. Triceratops families move closer together, frills and horns brushing lightly as a silent signal of unity and caution. Mothers nudge calves with patient persistence, guiding them along familiar paths even as the undergrowth changes beneath their feet. Young dinosaurs stumble occasionally, adjusting to uneven soil, and their movements ripple outward, subtly alerting the group to potential threats. Predators grow more active as the temperature cools slightly. A pack of raptors stalks the edges of a clearing, claws gripping the soft, ash-laden soil. They communicate in whispers, low clicks and hisses, coordinating movements with precision. Even these skilled hunters hesitate at subtle vibrations in the ground, eyes narrowing as they interpret signals invisible to you or any casual observer. Instinct is heightened tonight, more sensitive to the slightest disruption. Rivers and ponds ripple with life and tension. Fish dart unpredictably, shimmering briefly in the muted light, while crocodilians float silently near the banks, muscles coiled and ready. Small disturbances, fallen leaves, insects skimming the water, tiny mammals hopping across rocks, send subtle waves that travel through the entire aquatic ecosystem. You notice how even these smallest interactions reflect a land on edge, a world finely tuned to tremors both seen and unseen. Early mammals move quickly and purposefully through the underbrush. They scurry between burrows, forage for food, and reinforce nests with instinctual urgency. Whiskers twitch, ears pivot, and eyes dart at every shadow. These creatures are small, easily overlooked, yet they sense more than most. Their vigilance is a quiet testament to survival, to the adaptability that will outlast even the mightiest of dinosaurs. Above, pterosaurs ride the uneven thermals, wings slicing through the dimming sky. Some glide lazily, others dive sharply for prey, wings beating with adaptive precision. The air carries a faint weight, a subtle resistance, as if even the atmosphere is aware of the shifts below. Their shadows flick across the land, brief and silent warnings to those below. Far beyond the clouds and the thin, ash-filtered atmosphere, the lonely meteor continues its silent descent. Its path is inexorable, unchangeable, and indifferent to life, death, or history. Dinosaurs continue their routines, grazing, hunting, drinking, resting, entirely unaware that a cosmic traveler is approaching to alter the world forever. You linger in this fragile twilight, noting the interplay of predator and prey, the restless river, the cautious herds, and the vigilant small mammals. Every moment is charged with anticipation, every creature an unwitting participant in a story that is about to change in ways unimaginable. The quiet tension coils ever tighter, threading through land, water, and air alike, waiting for the first sign of the inevitable. Twilight deepens into night, and the Cretaceous world takes on a muted, almost spectral glow. Ash still lingers in the air, filtering starlight into soft, ghostly beams. You move silently through the underbrush, feeling the weight of anticipation in every shadow, every rustle of leaves. The world seems both alive and fragile, teetering on the edge of something far larger than any creature can comprehend. Herds of herbivores huddle closer together under the dim light. Hadrosaurs graze with caution, ears swiveling constantly, tails flicking in subtle warnings. Sauropods, enormous and seemingly impervious, shift their massive weight as they navigate the valley floor, their steps measured and deliberate. Even the largest of these giants are sensitive to vibrations in the earth, to the quiet disturbances that ripple through the land beneath them. Predators move with uncanny patience. A lone tyrannosaur prowls near a riverbank, nostrils flaring, scanning the darkness for signs of life. Its gaze lingers on movements too subtle for most creatures to detect. A ripple in the water, a slight shimmer among the ferns, a sudden pause in a distant rustle. Even in the dead of night, instincts sharpen to the point of near precision, and the balance between predator and prey is delicate, almost fragile. Rivers and streams murmur quietly, reflecting faint starlight. Fish flash intermittently beneath the surface, leaping in erratic patterns as the water shifts with subtle currents. Crocodilians float with barely a ripple, their eyes just above water, perfectly still and perfectly alert. Tiny mammals and scuttling reptiles dart along the banks, whiskers and tails twitching, responding to vibrations too subtle to see but impossible to ignore. Every ripple, every sound, every scent carries significance in a world attuned to the unseen. Pterosaurs patrol the skies, shadows sliding over the land like living brushstrokes. Wings cut through the faint, ash-filtered starlight as the creatures dive and glide, their movements precise, adaptive, alive with instinctual awareness. Even these masters of the air sense subtle disturbances in currents and temperature. The night itself seems charged with a quiet energy, every gust of wind, every flicker of light carrying hints of change. Far above, beyond sight and sound, the lonely meteor hurtles closer. Its approach is relentless, absolute, and silent. It carries no intent, no awareness, no malice, simply the unyielding force of momentum and gravity. Dinosaurs continue their nightly routines, unaware that the cosmos has already chosen their fate. You linger in the darkness, observing the quiet vigilance of the creatures around you. The air is thick with tension, subtle and almost imperceptible, threading through every leaf, every scale, every paw and claw. Life continues, but the quiet hum of impending change vibrates beneath it all, waiting for the moment when the invisible tide will finally reach the shore. Night deepens, and the world becomes quieter, though not silent. You drift along the forest floor, noting the subtle sounds of life continuing under the ash-streaked sky. The soft scuffle of early mammals, the gentle splash of fish in the murky river, the distant rustle of leaves as a triceratops shifts in its sleep. Each sound is a note in the delicate symphony of survival, fragile yet persistent in the face of unseen forces. Herbivores remain cautious. Hadrosaurs cluster together, tails brushing, frills aligned in subtle communication. Their movements are deliberate. Every step tests the stability of the soil beneath their enormous weight. Even the sauropods, seemingly indifferent to danger, move with a slower, more measured gait, as if sensing tremors too faint to register consciously. Their massive bodies press the earth, each footfall a drumbeat in the quiet tension of the night. Predators are more alert. A pair of raptors stalks along the riverbank, claws scraping over soft mud. Their heads pivot continuously, nostrils flaring, ears twitching. They sense subtle vibrations, rustling leaves, shifting soil, the occasional ripple in the water. The hunt is not urgent tonight. It is careful, deliberate, attuned to every nuance. Instinct sharpens under the quiet, and even experienced predators hesitate, unsure of unseen forces that disturb their usual rhythm. Rivers and ponds ripple with life. Fish move in erratic flashes, amphibians croak in low, uneven rhythms, and crocodilians remain motionless, eyes barely above the waterline, muscles coiled in patience. Even these creatures, ancient and unyielding, feel the tension in the environment. The ash and sediment in the water make currents unpredictable, altering the usual flow, affecting the smallest and largest organisms alike. Small mammals dart through underbrush, foraging and burrowing with heightened urgency. Their whiskers quiver with every vibration, ears pivoting to catch subtle shifts in air or ground. These tiny creatures, so easily overlooked, demonstrate a form of awareness far beyond simple survival. They are sensitive to the faint, imperceptible threads of change weaving through their world. Above, pterosaurs glide through the night sky. Their wings slice through the ash-filtered air, shadows sweeping over the land below. Some dive for nocturnal prey, others glide silently, surveying the terrain with precise, instinctive awareness. Even the masters of the sky detect the subtle tremors in the wind, currents, and temperature, a hint of the approaching cosmic disturbance. And far beyond the atmosphere, the lonely meteor hurtles relentlessly toward Earth. It remains invisible, silent, and indifferent to life below. Yet its presence is a gravitational certainty, a silent harbinger whose arrival will reshape the world. Dinosaurs, mammals, rivers, forests, all continue, unaware that destiny is already on a collision course. You linger in the nocturnal world, absorbing the quiet, intricate interplay of life around you. Each heartbeat, each rustle, each movement is threaded with anticipation. The tension grows, invisible yet undeniable, as the first whispers of the end approach, carried silently by the cosmos. The first hints of dawn creep over the horizon, faint and hesitant, painting the sky in muted shades of pale gold and gray. Ash still hangs in the air, diffusing light into a soft, almost dreamlike glow. You move silently along a ridge, observing the plains below where dinosaurs stir, beginning the day with rituals both ordinary and fragile, unaware of the slow tightening of the threads around them. Herbivores begin to wake fully. Hadrosaurs stretch, shake the night from their massive bodies, and nuzzle young calves awake. The Triceratops families rise together, frills and horns brushing gently, signaling safety and unity. Yet subtle tension lingers. Every footfall is measured. Every rustle of leaves is noted. Even the largest giants, massive sauropods swaying under the weight of centuries, step lightly on uncertain soil, muscles tense as though reading signals invisible to human eyes. Predators awaken with heightened sensitivity. Tyrannosaurs yawn, teeth glinting faintly in the filtered light, and begin their methodical patrols. Smaller raptors move with calculated precision, scanning every shadow, listening for the tiniest irregularities in sound or movement. The hunt is cautious today, tempered by instinctive awareness of a world that has begun to shift in subtle, unsettling ways. Every twitch of grass or ripple in water becomes a potential warning. Rivers reflect the dim light, murky with ash and sediment. Fish dart nervously, leaping in erratic bursts, while amphibians croak in uneasy rhythms. Crocodilians float like ancient sentinels, nearly invisible, eyes glinting as they survey the water. Even the aquatic life seems attuned to the faint disturbances in their environment, moving with heightened caution. Small mammals dart through underbrush with almost frantic energy, whiskers and tails twitching at every imperfection in the ground. They dig, forage, and fortify burrows with instinctual urgency. They are attuned to the faintest vibrations, the subtlest shifts in air pressure or sound, a level of sensitivity that dwarfs the awareness of the larger creatures around them. Above, pterosaurs ride the morning currents, wings extended in measured glides. Some dive sharply for fish, others soar silently, scanning the valley below. Even these masters of the air adjust instinctively to irregular winds, to the strange turbulence created by distant eruptions and shifting thermal currents. The tension in the atmosphere mirrors that on the ground, a collective unease threading through every layer of life. And far beyond, the lonely meteor hurtles closer, crossing the void with relentless, indifferent momentum. It is invisible, silent, yet inexorable. The dinosaurs below continue to graze, hunt, and rest, entirely unaware that a cosmic force is approaching, one that will irrevocably alter the rhythm of their world. You linger in this fragile morning, noticing the interplay of predator and prey, the restless rivers, the cautious herds, and the hyper-aware small mammals. Every movement carries tension, every sound hints at unease. The quiet anticipation coils ever tighter, preparing the world for a change it cannot yet perceive. The sun rises higher, but its light is muted, filtered through lingering ash clouds that tint the world in a dusky amber. The air is heavy, thick with dust and the scent of wet earth, carrying a subtle vibration that hums beneath your feet. You walk slowly across a clearing, observing life that continues with both routine and cautious awareness. A fragile dance suspended between survival and the unknowable. Herds of herbivores begin to move with purpose. Sauropods stretch their necks toward treetops, chewing leaves with deliberate slowness. Yet their steps are careful, deliberate, testing the stability of the ground beneath their enormous weight. Calves stumble occasionally, nudged back upright by patient mothers, a quiet testament to instinctive guidance and social learning. Even in their apparent security, you sense an underlying tension, a subtle awareness that something is shifting in the fabric of their environment. Predators mirror this careful attentiveness. A tyrannosaur lumbers along a ridge, scanning for prey with eyes that miss nothing. Its movements are deliberate, cautious, attuned to the slightest change in sound or vibration. Smaller raptors weave through trees and underbrush, coordinating their hunt with near-silent communication. Even their sharp instincts seem touched by an unusual unease, the kind of awareness that emerges when the environment itself whispers a warning the conscious mind cannot yet interpret. Rivers ripple with life, though now their surfaces are restless. Fish leap in scattered bursts, disturbed by currents irregularly stirred by ash and sediment. Crocodilians float just beneath the surface, eyes glinting, muscles taut, moving almost imperceptibly with patient calculation. Even aquatic creatures, ancient and resilient, react instinctively to the subtle tremors and vibrations that ripple through water and earth alike. Early mammals scuttle across forest floors with urgent precision. Their tiny bodies are alive with activity, digging, foraging, hoarding, retreating at the slightest disturbance. Whiskers quiver, ears pivot, eyes dart, scanning for vibrations that signal danger or opportunity. They move with a level of attunement to the environment that rivals that of any predator, recognizing signals of change invisible to larger creatures. Above, pterosaurs glide through ash-laden skies, wings slicing silently through currents uneven and unpredictable. Some dive sharply for prey, others ride thermals with near-perfect balance. Even these masters of the sky adjust instinctively to irregular air currents, a subtle reflection of the growing tension in the atmosphere itself. And far beyond, the lonely meteor continues its relentless approach, silent and absolute. The dinosaurs below remain engrossed in their daily routines, grazing, hunting, resting, unaware of the cosmic certainty descending toward them. You feel the tension coil tighter across land, river, and sky, an imperceptible thread binding all life to an approaching moment of irreversible change. You linger, observing the intricate choreography of the ecosystem: predator, prey, water, and air. Every movement, every sound, every breath carries weight, charged with anticipation. The quiet unease of the world grows, a prelude to the inevitable cosmic interruption that will soon ripple through every corner of this living tapestry. Midday stretches across the ash-stained plains, and the light is harsh yet filtered, giving the landscape an otherworldly, muted tone. You move through a valley where ferns, cycads, and towering conifers sway gently, casting long shadows across the ground. The air is heavy with the smell of wet earth and ash, carrying subtle vibrations that hint at the restless energy threading through every living creature. Herbivores graze cautiously. Hadrosaurs dip their heads to nibble on low ferns, yet ears twitch at every distant sound. Triceratops families shift slightly as they move, frills brushing, communicating silent signals of awareness. Sauropods lumber slowly, their massive necks swaying in arcs, eyes sweeping the horizon. Even the seemingly indomitable giants are attentive, stepping with deliberate care on the ash-laden earth as though aware of unseen tremors beneath their feet. Predators patrol with heightened sensitivity. A lone tyrannosaur pads along a cliff edge, scanning every ripple in the river, every shadow in the underbrush. Its eyes narrow, catching movements invisible to you, reading vibrations in the ground. Raptors weave among fallen logs and ferns, claws scraping softly, their hunt deliberate yet cautious. The usual confidence of these hunters is tempered by instinctive unease, an acknowledgement that the familiar rhythms of life are subtly disrupted. Rivers shimmer faintly in the filtered light, carrying ash and sediment in their murky flows. Fish dart in erratic bursts, amphibians croak in uneven patterns, and crocodilians float motionless near the banks, observing with ancient patience. Even these aquatic ecosystems mirror the tension threading through the land, responding to subtle shifts in currents and vibrations that only instinct can decipher. Small mammals scurry with purposeful urgency. They forage, dig, and retreat, whiskers quivering at the faintest disturbance. Burrows are reinforced, nests stocked, movements precise and economical. These creatures, so easily overlooked, are attuned to subtle signals of change far beyond the perception of larger animals. Their awareness is a quiet pulse beneath the grander drama of the giants above. Above, pterosaurs glide with precision through the ash-laden sky. Wings cut the air with silent efficiency, riding unpredictable thermals. Some dive for fish, others survey the landscape, their keen vision catching shifts invisible from the ground. Even the masters of the air are subtly off-kilter, responding to the uneven currents and shifting temperatures, the world's quiet warnings brushing against instinct. And far beyond, the lonely meteor presses closer, moving through space with unerring momentum. Its silent, indifferent journey brings it nearer to Earth with each passing second. The dinosaurs below continue their daily routines, utterly unaware of the cosmic certainty approaching. You sense the tension in every leaf, ripple, and heartbeat, an invisible thread connecting all life to the inevitable interruption that looms ever closer. You pause to take in the valley, predator and prey, river and plain, sky and tree. Every movement carries significance, every sound hints at unease. Life continues, yet beneath it all, a subtle, tightening anticipation coils through the land, whispering that the world is poised on the brink of irreversible change. The afternoon light softens, filtered through ash and distant clouds of volcanic dust, casting the world in muted amber and gray. You walk along a gentle slope, watching life continue with cautious rhythms, the air thick with the faint scent of damp earth and foliage. Even the smallest vibrations seem amplified here, a subtle reminder that the planet itself is alive, responding to forces both visible and unseen. Herbivores move with deliberate care. Hadrosaurs cluster together, necks swaying as they graze, ears flicking toward sounds too faint to detect consciously. Triceratops families walk in tight formations, horns brushing softly, a silent communication of caution and awareness. Sauropods, enormous and majestic, lower their massive necks to feed but shift each step as though testing the soil beneath them. Even creatures whose size has long shielded them from predators now move with heightened alertness. Predators stalk with calculated patience. A pair of raptors weaves silently through the underbrush, claws gripping soft soil, heads pivoting to catch even the slightest movement. A tyrannosaur lumbers along a riverbank, nostrils flaring, eyes scanning for subtle ripples in the water or slight tremors in the ground. Even apex predators are affected by the faint disquiet threading through their environment, their confidence tempered by instinctive wariness. Rivers flow with a restless energy, murky with ash and sediment. Fish dart in bursts of silver, amphibians croak in irregular rhythms, and crocodilians float motionless near the banks, muscles coiled in patient vigilance. Even aquatic ecosystems reflect the tension that runs across the land, responding to vibrations, minor disturbances, and shifting currents that hint at the larger, invisible forces at play. Small mammals scurry with precise efficiency. They forage, dig, and hoard, moving with a vigilance that belies their size. Whiskers quiver at imperceptible changes in airflow, ears pivot to capture subtle sounds, and eyes flash at the slightest shadow. These tiny creatures are the unsung observers of the world, sensitive to the faintest signals of change, attuned to the subtle disruptions that larger animals might miss. Pterosaurs glide through the ash-laden sky with elegant precision. Some ride the thermals lazily, wings extended, while others dive sharply to snatch prey from rivers or forested clearings. Even these aerial masters adapt instinctively to irregular currents, sensing disturbances in temperature and wind patterns. The air itself seems restless, carrying tension that mirrors the unease threading through the land below. And far beyond, the lonely meteor presses forward, its path unyielding, absolute, and silent. It moves ever closer, indifferent to life, oblivious to history, carrying with it the certainty of irreversible change. Dinosaurs, mammals, rivers, forests, all continue their daily patterns, unaware that a cosmic visitor is approaching, poised to disrupt everything in a single, earth-shaking moment. You linger, observing the choreography of life, predator and prey, river and forest, sky and plains. Every sound, every ripple, every subtle movement resonates with quiet tension, a prelude to the inevitable disruption that will soon cascade through every corner of this living, breathing world. The light begins to shift toward evening, softening into warm golds and muted oranges as the sun dips lower behind ash-laden clouds. You move quietly along a ridge, overlooking a vast plain dotted with ferns, cycads, and towering conifers. The air is heavy with the scent of damp earth, ash, and distant vegetation, carrying subtle vibrations that make every leaf, stone, and ripple of water seem alive. The world feels both calm and tense, suspended in a delicate, almost imperceptible balance. Herbivores stir with increasing awareness. Hadrosaurs graze cautiously, necks swaying in measured arcs, ears flicking toward distant, faint sounds. Triceratops families walk with calculated closeness, horns and frills brushing as silent signals of safety. Even the massive sauropods move with measured steps, each footfall testing the stability of ash-softened ground. Their enormous bodies, usually symbols of unshakable confidence, now exude a subtle caution, reflecting instinctive recognition of disturbance too slight for human perception. Predators shift with a quiet precision. Raptors stalk through the underbrush, claws scraping soft soil, heads pivoting to detect the faintest movement. A tyrannosaur lumbers near a river bend, nostrils flaring, eyes scanning, muscles coiled in readiness. Instinct sharpens their awareness, heightening sensitivity to the irregular tremors and tiny vibrations that ripple through the land. Even apex hunters adjust to subtle warnings their senses alone can detect. Rivers ripple with a nervous energy. Fish dart in unpredictable bursts, amphibians croak unevenly, and crocodilians float near banks, eyes glinting, muscles taut. Water itself seems to carry the tension of the world, reacting to ash and sediment, minor shifts, and disturbances that hint at the larger, invisible forces moving unseen through the environment. Small mammals scurry with efficient urgency. They forage, burrow, and hoard, whiskers twitching, ears pivoting, eyes wide and alert. These tiny creatures are deeply attuned to faint vibrations and minute environmental shifts, detecting disturbances that larger animals often overlook. Their vigilance is a quiet, understated testament to survival and adaptability in a world teetering on the brink. Above, pterosaurs glide through ash-streaked skies, wings slicing silently through air uneven with thermal shifts. Some dive sharply to snatch prey, others hover, surveying the landscape with precise, instinct-driven focus. Even the aerial masters sense subtle disruptions, adapting to irregular currents and temperatures as tension weaves through the atmosphere like an invisible thread. And far beyond, the lonely meteor continues its relentless approach, silent, absolute, and unyielding. Its presence is unnoticed yet certain, an inexorable force drawing closer with every passing second. Dinosaurs, mammals, rivers, and forests maintain their routines, unaware of the cosmic certainty descending upon them. You linger in this evening world, absorbing the interplay of predator and prey, land and water, sky and forest. Every movement, every sound, every ripple carries weight, threading tension through every corner of this living ecosystem. The quiet anticipation coils tighter, preparing the world for the inevitable disruption looming on the horizon. Evening deepens, and the landscape softens under the dimming ash-filtered light. Shadows lengthen across plains and forests, merging into one another as the sun slides closer to the horizon. You wander through a clearing, noticing the subtle interplay of movement and stillness, the faint rustle of leaves, the delicate ripple of water, the gentle sway of tall cycads in the warm, heavy air. Everything is alive, yet under a hush as if the world itself is holding its breath. Herbivores adjust to the fading light. Hadrosaurs move in measured clusters, necks stretching to reach fern tops but eyes scanning constantly. Triceratops families stay close together, heads lowered, frills brushing, signaling attention and care. Sauropods move slowly and deliberately, every step a careful negotiation with the ash-softened soil. Even the largest creatures sense the quiet shifts beneath them, responding instinctively to subtle vibrations and movements invisible to the casual observer. Predators become increasingly vigilant. A lone tyrannosaur prowls near the riverbank, nostrils flaring as it picks up the faintest scent carried on the wind. Raptors move like shadows through the underbrush, coordinating hunts with near-silent gestures and clicks. Every movement is precise, every pause deliberate. Instinct heightens their awareness, picking up subtle cues, the uneven rustle of vegetation, minute changes in ground vibrations, the almost imperceptible ripple in water. Rivers and streams ripple and shimmer in the muted light, restless with ash-laden water. Fish dart in quick, unpredictable bursts, amphibians croak in irregular rhythms, and crocodilians float near banks, eyes glinting as they wait, muscles coiled. The water itself seems attuned to the tension threading through the land, reacting to every subtle disturbance, a mirror of the unease in the ecosystem. Small mammals scurry with energetic precision. They forage, dig, and reinforce nests with urgent care, whiskers and tails responding to the faintest tremors or changes in air pressure. These tiny creatures, unnoticed by larger animals, remain the most sensitive observers of the environment, reacting instinctively to signs that hint at shifts yet to be fully understood. Pterosaurs glide across the darkening sky, wings extended, adjusting to thermal shifts and irregular currents. Some dive for fish or insects, others circle slowly, eyes sharp and vigilant. Even these masters of the air are subtly off-kilter, sensing the undercurrent of tension threading through the atmosphere. And far above, the lonely meteor presses closer, moving with silent, inexorable momentum. Its path is unyielding, indifferent to life below, a cosmic certainty approaching without warning. Dinosaurs, mammals, rivers, and forests continue their routines, oblivious to the irreversible change hurtling toward them. You linger in this quiet, dimming world, absorbing the interplay of land, water, and sky. Every movement, every sound, every breath of wind carries tension, threading anticipation through every living being. The air itself hums with the promise of inevitable transformation, an unseen force preparing to sweep through the Cretaceous world. Night falls fully, and the Cretaceous world drifts into a muted twilight, the ash-laden sky diffusing moonlight into a soft, ghostly glow. You move along the riverbank, listening to subtle sounds. Water lapping against sediment, leaves trembling in the faint wind, distant calls of creatures settling for the night. Everything feels slowed, deliberate, suspended in the fragile rhythm of premonition and instinct. Herbivores huddle in small, cautious groups. Hadrosaurs lower their heads to graze but frequently lift them, ears swiveling, eyes scanning. Triceratops families move closely together, frills brushing, communicating vigilance. Sauropods kneel or step lightly, each movement measured, every footfall a negotiation with the soft ash beneath them. Even the largest creatures, normally symbols of dominance, exhibit subtle signs of attentiveness, responding instinctively to environmental vibrations too faint for humans to perceive. Predators tread softly, shadows among the trees. Raptors move through underbrush with precise coordination, tails and heads signaling near-silent communication. Tyrannosaurs patrol along ridges and river bends, nostrils flaring, eyes catching glints of movement in near darkness. Their instincts are finely attuned tonight. Even apex predators respond to the faint tremors in the soil, the subtle shifts in air, and the irregular patterns of life all around them. Rivers shimmer with subdued energy. Fish flicker beneath the water in sudden flashes, amphibians croak in uneven sequences, and crocodilians float motionless, eyes glinting, muscles coiled in patient anticipation. Every ripple, every microcurrent, every disturbance in the water carries meaning, echoing the tension that threads through the land and air. Small mammals move with quiet urgency. They forage, dig, and hoard under the dim light, whiskers and tails twitching at the slightest vibration or change in airflow. Their movements are precise, deliberate, instinct-driven, responding to environmental cues invisible to larger animals. These tiny, often overlooked creatures demonstrate the keenest attunement to the unseen rhythms of the world, a subtle pulse of awareness threading through the night. Pterosaurs cut through the starlit sky, gliding on uneven thermals. Some dive sharply to snatch fish or insects, wings slicing silently through air that carries faint tremors from the ground below. Even these aerial masters sense subtle disturbances in wind and temperature, adjusting instinctively as tension coils through the atmosphere. And far beyond, the lonely meteor continues its relentless approach. Silent, indifferent, unstoppable, it moves ever closer to the world below. Dinosaurs continue their nightly routines. Mammals forage and hide, rivers flow, forests whisper in the wind, all unaware that a cosmic certainty is approaching, ready to alter everything with irrevocable force. You linger in this quiet, tense night, noticing the choreography of life: predator and prey, river and forest, sky and plain. Every subtle sound, every ripple, every cautious movement threads tension through the living tapestry, an anticipation that grows with every passing moment as the invisible hand of destiny draws nearer. The early hours of the night stretch on, a quiet lull settling across the ash-streaked plains. The moon casts a muted, silver glow over the landscape, softening edges and elongating shadows. You tread carefully through dense ferns and cycads, noticing the subtle vibrations beneath your feet and the distant rustle of movement, tiny hints of life continuing with cautious precision. The world feels suspended, teetering between ordinary survival and the approaching extraordinary. Herbivores remain alert, moving in small, tightly knit groups. Hadrosaurs graze with necks extended, ears swiveling at every faint sound. Triceratops families inch along cautiously, heads brushing, frills signaling reassurance and vigilance. Sauropods bend to reach low-hanging branches, shifting each foot deliberately on the ash-softened earth. Even the most massive of creatures, seemingly untroubled by danger, display a subtle awareness, responding instinctively to vibrations and environmental cues imperceptible to casual observation. Predators prowl with calculated patience. Raptors slip silently through underbrush, claws whispering against soft soil, eyes and heads rotating in near-constant vigilance. A tyrannosaur moves along a riverbank, nostrils flaring, eyes catching the faintest shimmer of movement. Its instincts heighten as it interprets subtle shifts in the terrain, vibrations in the soil, and irregular patterns in the behavior of prey. The apex predator's confidence is tempered tonight, restrained by an instinctive sensitivity to the faint unease threading through the ecosystem. Rivers murmur with restless energy, reflecting the faint moonlight in silver flashes. Fish dart in sudden bursts, amphibians croak in uneven sequences, and crocodilians float almost invisibly near the banks, eyes glinting, muscles taut. Water mirrors the tension on land, responding to ash, sediment, and tremors too subtle for human senses, yet perfectly clear to the creatures inhabiting it. Small mammals navigate the underbrush with urgent precision. They dig, forage, and reinforce burrows, whiskers quivering, tails twitching at faint changes in vibration or airflow. These tiny observers detect subtle shifts in the environment, an instinctive understanding of change that larger animals often miss. Their movements, though quiet and fleeting, contribute to the living tapestry of alertness threading through the night. Above, pterosaurs glide silently through the darkened sky. Wings cut through the still air, some diving to snatch prey, others soaring with measured grace. Even these aerial masters adapt instinctively to uneven thermals and shifts in temperature, sensing the subtle disturbances threading through the atmosphere like invisible threads of tension. And far beyond, the lonely meteor presses on, silent and inexorable. Its path is absolute, indifferent to life, history, or consequence, drawing ever closer to the unsuspecting world below. Dinosaurs, mammals, rivers, forests, all continue their routines, oblivious to the inevitable cosmic arrival. You linger, observing the delicate, interconnected web of life. Predator and prey, river and forest, sky and plain. Every sound, every ripple, every motion carries weight, a subtle hum of tension building as the invisible hand of destiny coils ever tighter around this fragile world. The night grows deeper, and a cool hush settles over the ash-streaked plains. Moonlight glances off dew-laden ferns, casting long, wavering shadows across the ground. You move carefully, senses alert to the faint tremors and subtle sounds surrounding you. The gentle rustle of leaves, the irregular ripple of water, the soft, nearly imperceptible movements of life pressing onward through the darkness. Herbivores remain vigilant, moving in deliberate, cautious patterns. Hadrosaurs graze in clusters, ears constantly pivoting, nostrils flaring at the faintest scent. Triceratops families stay tight-knit, horns and frills brushing as a silent communication of awareness. Sauropods stretch to reach low branches or push through groves of cycads, stepping carefully on softened earth. Even the largest, most seemingly invincible creatures carry an undercurrent of attentiveness, guided by instinctive perception of subtle vibrations in their environment. Predators patrol in quiet patience. Raptors glide through underbrush with near-silent movements, claws scraping soft soil, heads pivoting to detect every minor irregularity. A tyrannosaur prowls the riverbank, nostrils flaring, muscles coiled, eyes scanning for the faintest disturbance. Its instincts interpret vibrations in the ground and subtle changes in prey behavior. Even apex predators sense the quiet tension threading through their world, and they move with a cautious deliberation uncommon for their kind. Rivers whisper with restless energy. Fish dart in sudden bursts, amphibians croak unevenly, and crocodilians float motionless near banks, muscles tensed, eyes glinting in faint moonlight. Water itself reflects the unease in the ecosystem, responding to minor shifts, ash-laden currents, and tremors imperceptible to larger animals but crucial to survival in this finely tuned environment. Small mammals scurry with urgent intent, digging, foraging, and reinforcing nests. Whiskers quiver, ears pivot, and eyes flash at the slightest change in airflow or vibration. These tiny creatures are the most sensitive observers of subtle shifts, detecting environmental cues invisible to larger animals and adding a quiet pulse of awareness to the night's fragile rhythm. Pterosaurs glide overhead, wings slicing through still air, some diving to snatch prey while others soar silently, surveying the landscape below. Even masters of the sky adapt instinctively to irregular thermals and temperature fluctuations, sensing the subtle disturbances threading tension through the night air. And far beyond, the lonely meteor advances relentlessly, silent, absolute, and unyielding. Its cosmic momentum is indifferent to life, unaware of history or consequence, drawing ever closer to the unsuspecting world below. Dinosaurs, mammals, rivers, and forests continue their routines, oblivious to the approaching force of change that will soon ripple through every corner of their existence. You linger in this night, absorbing the quiet tension threading through land, water, and sky. Every rustle, ripple, and cautious step carries weight, anticipation coiling tighter with every passing moment, as the invisible hand of destiny draws inexorably nearer to this fragile, living world. The night deepens further, and the ash-streaked moonlight casts a pale, eerie glow across the landscape. You move through a forested area where towering cycads and conifers stretch overhead, their shadows merging and twisting on the soft, uneven ground. The air is thick with the scent of damp soil, ash, and distant vegetation, carrying subtle vibrations that seem to hum beneath your feet. The world feels suspended, balanced delicately between routine life and the approaching, unknowable. Herbivores remain alert, moving with careful deliberation. Hadrosaurs graze with measured, deliberate motions, ears flicking toward the faintest rustle. Triceratops families stick close together, horns and frills brushing as silent communication of safety and attention. Sauropods reach high and low, stretching to consume leaves, each step a test of the soft, ash-laden earth. Even the largest, most imposing creatures carry a quiet vigilance, their senses tuned to vibrations and subtle disturbances in the environment. Predators patrol with restrained precision. Raptors move silently through underbrush, claws scraping softly, heads pivoting to catch the slightest movement. A tyrannosaur prowls along a riverbank, nostrils flaring, muscles coiled, eyes scanning constantly for even the faintest hint of prey or disturbance. Its instincts interpret tiny shifts in the ground, irregular behavior in other creatures, and the subtle tension threaded through the ecosystem. Even apex predators sense the quiet unease vibrating across land, water, and sky, adjusting movements with measured care. Rivers glimmer in the moonlight, restless with ash-laden currents. Fish dart in unpredictable bursts, amphibians croak unevenly, and crocodilians float motionless, eyes glinting, muscles coiled. The water reflects and amplifies the tension in the world, responding to vibrations and minute disturbances, mirroring the quiet alertness threading through every layer of life. Small mammals navigate the forest floor with urgent efficiency. Whiskers quiver, ears pivot, tails twitch. They forage, dig, and reinforce burrows with precise, instinctive care. Their acute sensitivity to vibration and airflow renders them the most aware participants in the night's delicate ecosystem, detecting changes and responding to signals that larger animals might overlook entirely. Above, pterosaurs glide through the ash-tinged night sky, wings slicing silently, some diving for prey, others circling in measured, graceful arcs. Even these aerial masters sense subtle disruptions in thermals, temperature, and wind currents, adjusting instinctively as tension threads through the atmosphere. Far beyond, the lonely meteor continues its unrelenting approach, silent and absolute. Its trajectory is inevitable, indifferent to the life, land, and rivers below. Dinosaurs, mammals, and forests maintain their nightly patterns, oblivious to the cosmic certainty closing in. You linger in this nocturnal world, observing predator and prey, river and forest, sky and plain. Every movement, every sound, every subtle ripple resonates with tension, anticipation coiling ever tighter, as the invisible force of destiny draws inexorably nearer to the fragile balance of life. The first faint hints of pre-dawn light begin to bleed into the ash-laden sky, casting the world in soft grays and muted blues. You move along a ridge overlooking a river valley, noticing how shadows stretch and blend, creating an illusion of motion even where the land lies still. The air is heavy, humid with the scent of wet earth and lingering ash, vibrating subtly with life continuing its delicate, precarious rhythm. Herbivores stir with careful attention. Hadrosaurs move in tight clusters, necks swaying rhythmically as they graze, eyes flicking to every distant sound. Triceratops families inch forward, horns and frills brushing in silent communication, a choreography of vigilance. Sauropods lower their massive heads to feed, stepping deliberately to test the stability of the softened earth. Even these colossal creatures, symbols of dominance, carry a quiet attentiveness, responding instinctively to subtle tremors and environmental cues invisible to most observers. Predators shift with heightened sensitivity. Raptors glide silently through the underbrush, claws barely making contact with the soil, heads pivoting to catch every faint motion. A tyrannosaur stalks near the riverbank, nostrils flaring, eyes scanning, muscles coiled in anticipation. Its instincts sharpen as it detects irregularities, tiny vibrations, shifts in behavior of prey, subtle disturbances in the environment. Even apex predators sense the tension threading through land, water, and sky, moving with a caution uncommon for their usual confidence. Rivers shimmer faintly, restless beneath the early light. Fish flicker in sudden bursts, amphibians croak in uneven sequences, and crocodilians float near banks, eyes glinting, muscles tensed. Water mirrors the unease in the world, responding to ash, sediment, and tremors that ripple imperceptibly yet with significance to the creatures inhabiting it. Small mammals move with urgent precision. Whiskers quiver, ears pivot, eyes flash at the slightest disturbance. They dig, forage, and reinforce burrows, responding instinctively to subtle cues that escape the notice of larger animals. These tiny creatures act as delicate sensors of the world, reflecting the tension running through the night toward dawn. Pterosaurs glide across the pale sky, wings extended, slicing through air with controlled grace. Some dive to snatch prey, others circle lazily, eyes sharp and vigilant. Even these masters of the sky detect irregular thermals and shifts in air pressure, adjusting instinctively as tension threads through the atmosphere. And far beyond, the lonely meteor presses relentlessly onward, silent, absolute, and inevitable. Its cosmic path is indifferent to the life below, approaching with an inescapable certainty. Dinosaurs, mammals, rivers, and forests continue their routines, unaware that a profound, world-altering event is minutes, hours at most, away. You linger in this fragile pre-dawn world, observing the interwoven web of life, predator and prey, river and forest, sky and plain. Every rustle, ripple, and cautious movement carries the weight of anticipation, tension coiling ever tighter as the unseen hand of destiny draws inexorably nearer, poised to touch every corner of this living tapestry. The world teeters on the edge of transformation. Dawn struggles to pierce the ash-thickened sky, casting the land in muted golds and grays, shadows stretching long and uncertain across the plains. You move slowly through the landscape, absorbing the quiet tension that hangs in every leaf, every ripple of water, every cautious step of the creatures around you. The air carries the faint metallic scent of unsettled earth, mingled with the rich odor of damp foliage, hinting at the change that is inevitable but not yet visible. Herbivores are restless. Hadrosaurs shift their weight as they graze, scanning the horizon with unblinking eyes, ears twitching at every minor sound. Triceratops families stick together, frills brushing softly, communicating silent vigilance. Sauropods bend and stretch to feed, their massive bodies moving slowly and deliberately, each step a careful negotiation with the ash-laden earth. Even these giants, symbols of strength and endurance, exhibit subtle signs of alertness, sensing disturbances too faint for casual observation. Predators prowl with heightened awareness. Raptors slip through underbrush with near-silent precision, claws and tails communicating with subtle gestures. A tyrannosaur stalks along a river bend, nostrils flaring, eyes tracking movement, muscles tensed. Instinct sharpens, detecting vibrations in the ground, irregularities in behavior, and subtle shifts in the environment. Even apex hunters recognize the tension threading through the ecosystem, responding with deliberate caution. Rivers carry a restless energy. Fish dart in sudden, unpredictable bursts, amphibians croak in uneven rhythms, and crocodilians float motionless, eyes glinting as muscles remain coiled. Water mirrors the unease of the surrounding land, reflecting every tremor, current, and disturbance with a quiet clarity that only the most perceptive inhabitants can interpret. Small mammals navigate the terrain with urgent, precise movements. Whiskers quiver, ears pivot, and eyes flash at subtle shifts in air and ground. They forage, dig, and reinforce burrows, responding instinctively to signals of impending change, the tiniest of sentinels in a world on the brink. Pterosaurs glide through the early light, wings slicing silently, some diving for prey, others circling slowly, surveying the unfolding landscape. Even these masters of the air adjust instinctively to uneven thermals and temperature shifts, sensing the underlying tension threading through the environment. And far beyond, the lonely meteor approaches with unyielding momentum, silent and absolute. It will soon pierce the atmosphere, a cosmic intruder indifferent to life, history, or consequence. Dinosaurs, mammals, rivers, and forests continue their routines, unaware that every heartbeat, every breath, every movement will be touched by the inexorable force of change. You linger in this fragile, pre-dawn world, observing predator and prey, river and forest, sky and plain. Every subtle movement, every ripple, every sound threads anticipation and tension through the living tapestry. Time itself seems to slow as destiny coils tighter around the land, ready to release a transformation both sudden and irreversible. The wind softens, the rivers murmur, the forests hold their breath. Even the creatures, instinctively attuned, move with a muted caution as the final moments before cosmic contact draw near. And in this suspended, trembling moment, you realize the quiet power of the meteor's approach, a force so vast, yet so singular that it will touch every corner of life in ways unimaginable. As the first golden light begins to glow behind the clouds, the tension peaks. You watch, knowing that life on Earth, as it has been, is about to change forever. Every creature, from the tiniest mammal to the largest dinosaur, participates unknowingly in this final, profound moment of the Cretaceous, each movement a delicate note in the last symphony before transformation. The light softens further, stretching into long, gentle beams that filter through the ash-streaked sky. Everything seems slower now, quieter. You take a deep breath, feeling the rhythm of life around you, the soft lapping of the river, the gentle rustle of leaves, the faint movements of creatures settling into stillness. Time stretches and lengthens, allowing each detail to linger, to be savored in the hush before the inevitable. Herbivores pause in their careful routines, heads lowered, muscles relaxing in the dim light. Predators drift with measured grace, no longer in pursuit, their instincts tempered by the calm. Rivers glide silently, reflecting the soft glow above, while small mammals curl into their burrows, whiskers twitching gently as they drift into rest. Pterosaurs fold wings slowly, perching or gliding lazily as if aware that the tension is slowly dissolving. The air is filled with subtle warmth, carrying the faint scent of wet earth and cooling ash. Every creature, every element of the landscape seems to exhale together, an unseen sigh of acknowledgement. The quiet is deep, soothing, almost meditative, and you feel yourself being drawn into its rhythm. Each shadow, each ripple, each gentle sway becomes a lullaby, a reminder that life persists even in moments of profound change. And far above, the lonely meteor continues its silent journey, now distant yet inevitable. You let the thought drift by like a feather, not as a threat, but as part of the larger story of the world. The suspense softens, the sharp edges of tension blur, and a sense of calm takes its place. Now, rest your eyes, imagine each scene like a dream, and let yourself float deeper into calm. Feel the rhythm of the ancient world as it slows, softens, and folds gently into night, carrying you with it into the quiet, infinite embrace of sleep.